Well, hello there, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So welcome. This is Denise Noira-Rez with AIM Wellness Clinic, and I am excited to host this teleseminar webinar with people that specialize in fertility as well. And so welcome to our Aim to Get Pregnant teleseminar webinar. My intention for you is for you to discover, get some insight about how your body is and become more informed about fertility and testing of fertility, so maybe it doesn't feel so scary, and that you can make your own decision based on where you are today, and to give you some coping mechanisms that can help support you until you do conceive. So let me start by introducing Sara. Sara Rector has been helping individuals and couples cope with infertility since 1980, and she has been in her private practice since 1994. She's the director of the Circle of Life Center, which is a full-service infertility support center providing information, counseling, and individual couples and groups. She leads support groups for Resolve. She's also created a reproductive wellness MP3s and CDs series, which includes information on positive intention conception, relationship issues and infertility, the male factor perspectives and experiences of infertility, and healing pregnancy, loss, and transition to donation. I've had the privilege of working with Sara Rector for almost 15 years now. We've had patients, and she just really attracts beautiful women that are so supportive and nurturing in her groups, and she really creates an amazing safe space of support. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Sara Rector. Hi, Sara.
Hi, Denise. Hi, thank you for the beautiful introduction, and it's my pleasure to work with you. I always really enjoy your healing energy and get a lot of positive feedback from my clients, our patients that we share together. And I always love laughing with you. You know, life's too important to be taken seriously. And boy, I'll tell you, this going through infertility can be a dark cloud. So yeah, so I'll get more into that, the dark cloud and the bright sunny day. But I want to offer to everyone that's on this teleseminar a free gift. And what I'd like to offer is that you get to pick out one of my reproductive wellness MP3s. So Denise had mentioned the choices: positive intention conception, relationship issues, he said, she said, which is me and my husband interviewing each other. So that one's kind of funny. You get to hear about his date with a cup. Healing pregnancy loss, and then the transition in ovum donation. So I will email you the link, and then you can respond with your choice. And so you can email me right now at Sara Rector, SARARECTOR, MFT, M as in marriage, F as in family, T as in therapist, at gmail.com to request your free link to the MP3. And also what I'm going to include is 10 strategies to cope with infertility as a couple. And any questions that you may have, go ahead and email, and I'm happy to answer them.
Wow, that's generous. And we're putting that in the chat room as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Denise. And thank you for setting this up and creating this great space, this great healing space where we can share information to support people going through infertility. So what I want to share, I have a lot of professional experience with family building and supporting individuals and couples that are going through infertility. And I just want to share with you that I also have a lot of personal experience. And that really is the most soulful part of what informs the work that I do, because there's a special kind of knowing that happens when you've gone through this experience, and it is an experience that is defined as traumatic. Traumatic is a negative experience that most people in the general population do not experience. And the last time I checked, it was 1 in 8 individuals deal with and go through infertility. So it is a challenging time that I personally experienced. And so that's how I got here. So I just want to give you a little bit of information about that so you can get to know me. And then I'm going to talk about, as Denise said, the emotional ups and downs of infertility, which really is what they've called the emotional roller coaster of infertility. And it's tied to our menstrual cycles and also our treatment cycles. And this affects us individually, it affects our relationships, and it affects us in the bedroom with our partner. So that's going to be the second part of my talk. And then the last part will be solutions. So we're going to talk about the issues and the problems, but really most importantly, we're going to focus on what you can do and what the solutions are, the coping methods, the problem solving, and of course, my favorite, keeping it exciting and spicy in the bedroom. So, okay, so let's kind of rewind and so once upon a time, I was a 30-something, and I actually, before I took a 10-year detour into the corporate world. And so I graduated, I got my degree in psychology, and I took a detour into the corporate world, and I worked in sales. I sold Yellow Page advertising, actually, and I was then able to become a manager of salespeople that sold Yellow Page advertising. For back then it was called GTE. Now the company's name is Verizon. And so back then I was a corporate woman, and I was making money, and I decided that I'd get married I'd get married in my 30s. And then when things kind of settled down, then I would have a baby. So that was my plan. I actually ended up meeting the love of my life and getting married in my mid-20s. I didn't want him to get away. And we just had this fabulous life. I just made a ton of money. I was very successful in sales. It really worked out for me. And we traveled all over. The company sent me on sales trips that I won to Europe. We went a couple of times, and we just did whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. And it was really an exciting and fun lifestyle. So then all of a sudden, my younger brother, who also was married, he and his wife had a baby. And I got bitten by the baby bug. I fell in love with my nephew. I just couldn't get enough of him. And I live in Thousand Oaks. That's where my office is and my practice. And I would travel all the way to Orange County as many weekends as my husband would agree to. I would just wanted to be there all the time because he just fascinated me, and he just was a little miracle. So then I decided that I wanted to have a baby. And I actually was, I was in my late 20s. So then my husband and I went about the quest to have a baby. And one of the things that I had learned in sales was about goal setting goals and writing your goals down every year and checking in and seeing where you're at with your goals. And I learned about positive intention and positive thinking and the power of positive intention. And that formula had really worked well for me in sales. And really, I attribute a lot of my success to that goal setting and then positive thinking. So I went about it the same way that I went about my sales goals. I set my goals for the year, and on that list was have a baby and, of course, lose 10 pounds. Well, all of you that have gone through this journey know that losing 10 pounds and wanting to have a baby, those two do not mix at all for many, many reasons. The treatments cause us to gain weight, the hormones. I don't know about you, but I'm a stress eater. I love to eat. So I eat, happy, sad, stressed. And so that's my story. So for 7 years, I put on my goals at the beginning of the year, have a baby and lose 10 pounds. I think it actually went up to 20 pounds towards the end. And for 7 years, I did not achieve my goal. And each year it became sadder and more disheartening for me and frustrating. So eventually we did decide to go see a reproductive endocrinologist. I think that's really, really important to go to a specialist if you have been trying to conceive for a year or if you're over 35, because they really know what they're doing. They know all the latest and the greatest techniques and tests. And I'm sure that Dr. Narita is going to speak more to that. So please don't waste your time with an OBGYN because they're very limited. There are some things that they can do, but there's a lot of things that they're not aware of. And that the diagnostics is just so important. So we finally did go to a reproductive endocrinologist, and we also went to an acupuncturist, which I highly recommend. It was so helpful and relaxing. And it's just, those magic needles are amazing. So that was part of our treatment plan, and we went through an in vitro cycle. And what I did is I created a treatment plan to accompany the IVF cycle, because my experience was, I just felt like something so sacred to me as creating a child had become very medical and profane. And I really was struggling with that. So what I did is I used all of my positive intention techniques that I learned in sales, goal setting, and then I combined those with what I had learned in becoming a therapist. Oh, and I'm remembering I left out a piece. And that was that I was in sales, and part of that 7-year cycle, I realized that I really was having difficulty because I was out of town quite a bit. Sometimes I was out of town for 6-month stints. So I realized that my lifestyle was not conducive to having a baby. So this is really something important to think about too, because when I was in Las Vegas, for 6 months, that was during my fertile time 6 times. And I wasn't always, I went home on the weekends, or my husband would come up on the weekends, but that wasn't always the best timing. And back then, sperm doesn't really fax that well, or, I don't think, I still don't think you can fax it, but that lifestyle wasn't conducive to getting pregnant. So what I ended up doing is I ended up leaving the sales career and working on my first love of becoming a therapist. And so I did do that. And so that was really helpful because I learned a lot of techniques to support me during this trying time, coping techniques and strategies, relaxation techniques. So forward to going through an IVF cycle, what I did is I utilized everything that I had learned through my education, through my personal experience, through my struggles, and I created the positive intention conception treatment plan. It's a psychological treatment plan that supports you when you're going through these treatment cycles. And I created it because I really needed that kind of support to accompany the medical treatments that I was receiving, and to create that positive intention. So I went through my IVF cycle, and I used these techniques that were supportive, and created the positive intention. And I actually got pregnant the first time. And then what happened is that I went into this field, and I met some amazing people, Denise being one of those people. And then I got to help other people deal with the emotional ups and downs of infertility and menstrual cycles and relationships. So let's get into that part of the talk. So what happened to me, and what happens to the women that I work with, is that they experience the emotional ups and downs based on where they are in the cycle. And so we go through this period where we are usually, there's a downtime right before the cycle, where we are very upset because the last menstrual cycle did not result in a pregnancy. And so then what happens is when we seek medical treatment, that allows us to become more hopeful. And so we're seeking the treatment, and then a lot of times it's really helpful to have a support system, like a group. Like one of the things that I run that really helps the women is a Resolve support group. And I also recommend that people get connected to Resolve, which is a national infertility support organization that has a lot of information, a lot of different ways to support people going through infertility. And that's at resolve.org. And so going back to the ups and downs, so then as you're anticipatory of the cycle, then we start to get more hopeful, and maybe we even go through a treatment cycle, and then we have the waiting time, the 2-week wait, which is very nerve-wracking, and then when it does not result in a pregnancy, then that's the downward slide. That's where we can crash and burn and become very depressed, isolated, hopeless. And it's really hard and depleting to go through this cycle every month. And of course, it affects the bedroom because we start feeling like we are being very unsuccessful in the bedroom. And so we start to have negative feelings about sexuality, maybe our partner's sexuality, the sexuality that we have together. And so it can cause a lot of issues in the bedroom. In fact, it's funny, my husband and I attended a Resolve conference many years ago. And we have a 20-year-old daughter who was conceived through in vitro fertilization. And so it was many years ago that we went to this conference, over 20 years ago. And there were different talks that you could attend. And my husband and I split up because we really wanted to soak it all in. And so I picked the one about sexuality and sex because I like sex. And I was really disheartened by this emotional roller coaster ride that we were on individually and then also as a couple. We had many cycles that resulted in failure. And so what that creates in the bedroom is a sense of failure individually and as a couple. So anyways, I happened to go to that particular workshop. And the woman that taught it was a sex expert. She didn't really know about infertility, but she knew about sex. So she actually started talking, and here we are, we're kind of an angry group of, I guess, sexually frustrated people, definitely frustrated that we weren't conceiving. And so she started to take some notes and, how does this infertility affect your sex life? And so she started to jot down that a sense of failure. She started to write down, we were talking about how that sex needs to be timed. And she just started writing down this long list. And she said, you have every element of sexual dysfunction in this list. And so no wonder this is an issue. And so I'm going to talk more about solutions to that. But going through infertility is just so pervasive. It really can negatively impact how we feel about ourselves as an individual and how we feel about our relationship and then how we feel about our sexuality. So it really is very pervasive. That's one of the reasons that it's traumatic. Because it negatively impacts all these areas of our lives, or it can negatively impact. It impacts our work life because we need these medical treatments and we need to leave work at the most optimal time, and so we're constantly needing to leave work for appointments, and we really don't necessarily want to disclose why we are leaving work because it's very personal and private. So it just really creates a lot of these particular challenges. So let me just move on to some solutions and coping mechanisms that are very helpful in problem solving. And then last, I'll close on keeping it exciting in the bedroom. So this is what I found that worked for me. I actually ended up joining a group. For a long time, infertility was my dirty little secret. And I felt really, really bad about myself. And I find that my clients feel this way too. I felt that there was something wrong with me. And, I did have a medical diagnosis. I was dealing with infertility. We did try for 7 years, and finally it worked. That we went through IVF and conceived our daughter through IVF. But at the beginning, it was my dirty little secret. And so once I started to share about that and learn other people that were going through similar processes, I actually joined a group. And that was so healing for me to hear other people that were thinking and feeling the same way that I felt. That was an amazing experience to share about my thoughts of going to Mexico and seeing the little beggar children and wanting to kidnap one of them and bring them back to America, and feeling like, okay, that's a little crazy. And then having other women in the group say, oh yes, I felt that too. Just various different feelings of not wanting to go to baby showers. And then feeling bad about yourself because you didn't want to attend. But that's really normal and natural. Of course you don't want to go to a baby shower. That's incredibly painful. And so these are the things that I learned in my group. I learned about how other women were having issues with their husbands and their partners because they had a different way of coping and dealing with things. And so what happened is, instead of bringing the couple together, there were times when each member of the couple felt very, very isolated with their own thoughts and their feelings. A lot of times I have men and women come to me and the husband is so relieved. It's like he kind of wants to drop his wife off at the office so she can talk about her feelings, because he has a lot of feelings too, but he wouldn't dare bring up the subject because he feels like then the waterworks come. And then, he just kind of opened Pandora's box up. So, it can create a sense of isolation in the couple. That's why it's really important for the women that I see. They come and they get the support, and they come and they join the group, and they come and they talk to me individually. And then, sometimes I do see couples also, or we do a treatment plan where if couples therapy is warranted, we do that. It's the treatment plan is custom designed for each person that comes to me. And so it's really a relief for a lot of the women I talk to have a place where they can talk about their feelings. And it's also a relief to their partner, to their husband, that there's some place where she can talk about this, because there's a sense of overwhelm for everybody. It's a very, very emotionally overwhelming experience. What could be more compelling than wanting to reproduce? I mean, really, if you take a look at all animal behavior, it's all centered around reproduction. I went to Montana. I love Montana. And I saw these big elk horns. And then they shed the elk horns after mating season. And I just learned about the elk horns, that the way the elk horns work for the males is that the more ornate they are and the more they have that horn fuzz on them, I guess, that's more sexually attractive to the females. And so they are able to mate with more females. And so this is all based on fertility. So many other examples of animal behavior, and we're part of the animal kingdom. So we're very, very compelled to reproduce. And when we aren't able to do that, it's very emotionally and developmentally stunting. So what happens to us when we're going through infertility is it really can isolate and separate us from the people that we're friends with, the people that we know and we love. People get married and you have couples friends, and then what usually happens shortly thereafter is people start having babies. And that's what happened with my husband and I. And initially it's like, well, we're gonna be focused on our careers. But then when I got bitten by that baby bug, I just was heartbroken. I was heartbroken every month. When my period came, and that was that emotional roller coaster. And I was heartbroken when my friends were having baby number 1, baby number 2, baby number 3. I mean, it just was really so sad for me. And then I felt bad about myself because I had an emotional reaction. I had a reaction where I didn't want to be around these people. And these were my dear friends. And so that was really with this, and go through infertility. So when I found the Resolve group, my Resolve group, it was such a blessing because these women really got it. They really understood. They didn't think I was nuts when I wanted to kidnap the baby off the streets of Mexico. One woman, my neighbor, I had a neighbor that was in my group too. She's a little bit older than me, and she had been through 10 years of infertility. And so anyway, she was in my group. And then there was one woman in our neighborhood who, she just kept popping out the babies. I mean, she just, oh my gosh, I think she ended up having 6 kids. And so I was telling my neighbor, Maureen, I said, gosh, Maureen, I'd like to drink what's in her water over there at her house. Cause man, whatever she's doing and the water she's drinking is better than my water. Cause it's not happening. I'm not getting pregnant. And then I hope I don't offend anybody here, but, Maureen was very forthright and direct. And she says, screw the water. I want to F her husband. And I just started laughing. And I mean, this is what happens to us. It's like cut to the chase. So anyways, it was so good to be connected with this group of women that totally got me. We were able to share how we were thinking and feeling, and the other women didn't think we were crazy. They took it up a notch like Maureen did. And then we were able to problem solve. We were able to talk about our treatments, our treatment plans, different tests that we had taken, what our diagnoses were, what the symptoms of the diagnoses were. And this was very helpful. It really informed us as far as then we were able to have a collaborative discussion with our doctors. And what's amazing about reproductive endocrinologists is they're an incredible breed of people, because it very much so can be a collaborative process. They are open to that. It's not a situation where the doctor tells you. It's that it can be collaborative, and that you tell the doctor what you're experiencing, what you've researched, and the doctor then can share with you what they think is recommended in your particular case. So it just takes the treatment level up a few notches. And that's one of the things that happens in infertility, is that before I started infertility, I thought that, well, the doctor is the expert. The doctor has the answers. The doctor will fix this problem for me. And when I started to seek treatment, I realized that there's a reason why they call it art. It is the art of practicing infertility, in that there are no definitive answers in a lot of cases, that it's trial and error. And sometimes we don't know why certain things work. Sometimes we do. But it's quite a learning curve to learn about all the various possibilities, treatments, the pros and cons. And that's another way where the group really came in handy with the problem solving, was that it was like we had 6 people on our team, and we were all doing our own research no one can research like a woman going through infertility, let me just tell you. But you have to be careful with that, because there are sources that are better than others. So you need to stick with sources that are authoritative and not anecdotal, and that are legitimate. And so that's also the value of the group, is to really brainstorm, and really it really helps you get to the essence of what's going to be helpful for you. So, all right. So this is, I'm talking about how beneficial the group was for me, and I highly recommend the group process as a resource, along with individual and couples therapy as needed. You know, with your other professionals, they are very, very good at what they do. They only have a certain amount of time they're able to spend with you. And these treatments, there's a lot of questions, and it's very emotional. It's very emotional to make these transitions. And so having a therapy group, having a therapist for individual or couples support, having a consultant is very, very important. My passion is to do all of those things, because this is my work I'm passionate about because of my own personal experience. I want to tell you a little bit more about the group I was in. So what happened in the group is the group turned into a mommy and me group, if you can believe it. I think there were about 8 members that we had, and we all became mothers in different ways. And so that was kind of exciting, just to learn about all the different ways that one could be a mother. We had people that became mothers through ovum and sperm donor. We had people that one woman became a mother through surrogacy. And she's an amazing woman. She's actually a storyteller. She's a very kind of a famous storyteller named Vicki Juditz, and she tells her story about going through infertility, and she has a lot of other stories too. She speaks, does her storytelling through tasty words. If you want to look her up, she's incredible, an incredible performer. And so that's how she became a mother, and she was in our group. And there were women that became mothers through in vitro. I was one of those women. And we had women that adopted. We had women that, we had one woman, we had women that became mothers through insemination, IUI. And one woman was in the group, and she had secondary infertility, which means that she conceived her first child easily, but the second child was more difficult. And she was going through different treatment cycles, and then her doctor was not available during her fertile time, and she actually ended up conceiving on her own. So that was pretty amazing. So all of our babies came to us in different ways. But what we realized when we became a Mommy and Me group was that that was really secondary when we went on about the business of becoming a mother. And so that was a really powerful awareness that I think I really want to share with you, is that it's really getting clear about what is your ultimate goal too. That's part of what's going to be part of your treatment plan. If your ultimate goal is to have a baby, period, through any means, and you're clear about that, then you have a lot of different options. Some people get very clear that they just want to have a baby that has their own genetic material. Other people are willing to adopt, willing to use surrogacy, willing to utilize embryo donation. So these are all different options. And sperm donation, egg donation. And so this is part of what I explore with individuals, couples, and then also in the group, is choice making, because there are a lot of choices. Going through this process is, it's it's fraught with so many choices that people don't need to decide. You know, when I was going through this process, I knew a few different people that had accidents, that they had, you know, they had oopsies and accidents, and they weren't even married. And so their process was so unconscious. And I remember hearing a story about a woman who didn't even know she was pregnant, and then she ended up giving birth on her porch. And it just was like astounding to me, like, oh my God, how could that happen? I mean, I'm going through all these infertility treatments, and I'm constantly checking my mucus and my cycle and so on. And this woman's so unconscious. So what happens is you become very aware and conscious, and you have a lot of choices to make, which is very stressful. So having that support is very, very critical as you go along the way. Having other people that are informed about the choices that you have to make, and then they're also going through similar choices. So this is the value of doing, getting the therapeutic support or the consult support, is having that resource, because it's a really, really stressful time. And going back to the group that I was in, it was really the silver lining. These women that I met are, to this day, the majority of them, my best friends. We went through so much together, that we formed a bond. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and pain is very bonding. And so these women are my friends. Our children are friends. It's amazing. Our children are friends. Our husbands are friends. They're family friends. We have gone through so much together. We went through infertility, and then, like I said, the group became a mommy and me. And then we went through babyhood, toddlerhood, school-aged children, teenagers. That was fun. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know, now we have young adults that are in college, and we are still connected. And these women are, and these families are some of my best and dearest. So that was a silver lining of my dark cloud. And actually, in the groups, that's really my vision for the groups. And it's so beautiful for me, and so fulfilling, because that's what's happened. I've been running the groups now for 15 years, and these families, these women check in with me and just tell me, you know, that they've talked to so-and-so, and this one's kid just graduated. And I mean, that's my vision. And that's the beauty, is that you can form these connections that will be your village as you go through all of these ages and stages. So I'm looking at the clock, and I'm thinking I better start talking about sex, because I'm going to be running out of time here soon. So let's just highlight that, because I have given you some solutions and coping methods and problem solving. And so here's the thing with sex. Like the woman, the sex therapist said, I mean, this whole going through infertility is really counterintuitive to having an exciting and a spicy sex life. So the key is that one of the main keys is that you take breaks from trying to conceive a child, which seems very counterintuitive, because I know how passionate we can get about wanting to have a child. But sometimes that focus and that passion can be very, very damaging to us individually, and very damaging to our relationship. Sometimes, you know, a lot of times going through infertility is like running a marathon, and you really do need to pace yourself. You need to take breaks. You need to take sips of water, get some sort of so that you can make it all the way through. So that's why taking breaks is really, really important. Also, too, if you have a miscarriage, I mean, physically, sometimes that can be part of this process, unfortunately. And physically, you need to take a break. And a lot of times, you know, the doctors will support and encourage you to continue the treatment cycle and just to keep going. But I really want to encourage you to really check in with yourself and know that it's okay to take a breather and a break. And actually, one of the things that's going on right now, that for years that I talk about with my individuals, couples, and my group, is that really one of the most difficult times to go through a treatment cycle is December. And so it's really about taking a break and not cycling in December, because December is such a action-filled month, a stressful month of so many different activities and parties, and so really, really important to not have the additional pressure of going through a treatment cycle. And a lot of times doctors' offices have times when they're shut down, and other businesses that support the fertility community are closed because of the holidays. So it's just a really good month to take a break and just focus on celebrating that feels good to you. And I'm just going to side note that a little bit further, because we are approaching the holidays. And don't worry, I'll get back to sex. So side note on the holidays, there is a saying that comes from the 12-step community that is HALT. And it stands for never get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired. And so during the holidays, it's really a recipe for all of those things. We don't necessarily regularly feed ourselves because we're very busy doing all the extra tasks that the holidays bring about to our already busy lives. And we may be hungry for other things other than food. Maybe we need some quiet time, some meditation time, and to it's interesting. The holiday time is a time where it's there's a lot of anger. I live on a main street, and I avoid that street because the driving on that street during the holidays is really angry and dangerous. Because I think we just get stressed out because we've got so many things to do and not enough time to do it. Lonely is. We can be lonely amongst all of the parties and the crowds and so on. And tired goes without saying. So when we're going through infertility, we have all of these experiences too, because again, we're in a situation that most people don't experience. We have busy lives. And so going through infertility is like a full-time job. And so that is an overlay on top of what we're already doing. So it's really a great tool, a great check-in tool for the holidays, or for just really any time, is to check in with yourself and just ask yourself, how am I doing? What am I feeling right now? Am I hungry, angry, lonely? One of those things. Do what you need to do to practice self-care and to take care of yourself in those arenas. So taking a break. So I recommend taking a break around the holidays, and just checking in and just taking a break when you're feeling like you're at the end of your rope. So when you take a break, this is how the sex part ties in. So when you're taking a break from a treatment cycle, it's really a good idea to completely take a break and not do anything that would result in a pregnancy. So you're going to give yourself and your husband, your partner, the month off. And you are not going to do anything sexual that would result in a possible pregnancy. Off the emotional roller coaster, and you're going to have fun. So that's a time when you just do sexual things for fun. You surprise one another. You can go to, there's amazing stores, or you can go online and get some toys and some negligees. Victoria's Secret's amazing. I love that store. So it's fun to maybe take a trip over there, or go online yourself with your partner and pick some things out, some toys, some lotions, some potions, some lingerie, and just create this fun haven for yourself, and reconnect with one another in a way that is not results driven, which is so counter to sexual desire. So I recommend that. Victoria's Secret's wonderful. There's a place for those of you that are local in Ventura called Aphrodite's. Love that place. It is designed for women. They have lingerie downstairs. You go upstairs, and that's where they have all the toys, and they'll help you, pick out what you need to enjoy sexuality for yourself with your partner. So this is what I highly recommend, is that you reconnect with yourself and you reconnect with your partner just for pleasure, just for fun, and you take a break from that emotional roller coaster of sexuality. Getting away, planning a trip, taking a bath together, just the things that you really enjoy, buying yourself lotions and potions, and really exploring, different scents that you like that make you feel sexy, which is actually, aroma is the most direct route to the brain. And so we have these positive associations with aroma. And so that's a really important component. And actually, it's part of the creating a positive intention conception, which is a multi-sensory approach. And scent is part of that. I actually had a woman in my practice who had a negative association with her doctor's office. She ended up she went through a fertility cycle, and she had a pregnancy loss and had to do a D&C. And the doctor's office got new carpeting during this time frame. And after she completed her D&C, she did not return to the doctor's office, because every time she smelled that smell, it reminded her of her loss. So you can see how powerful these associations are, how we couple them with positive and negative experiences. So you want to use the aroma that is coupled with positive experiences, so you can create that positive environment. And with regard to sexuality, you pick an aroma that is that makes you feel sexy. An interesting note: research has shown that women like the smell of baby powder and baby lotion. They consider that sexy. So that's really tied back to fertility. And I think men, the number one fragrance for men is vanilla. So do your own research on that, but really allow yourself that break, and really allow yourself to get into that whole sensuality experience, reconnect back with what that is for you and what that is for your partner. So I think that I've kind of given a topical overview of the different things that I wanted to talk about. So I think what I will do is turn this back over to Denise.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, you too.